coffee to celebrate the Champions League qualification, and finally we have a good journalist instead of Alasdair. This is Loki, much better football expert than our friend Alasdair. Yeah, you talk later, Loki. But we are here to celebrate Lazio beating Celtic, and I'm here with our big friend, our Danish friend, Karsten Krogh. We will have to talk about Isaksen, obviously.
Sure.
But starting from big surprise, because rumors were that Pedro should have started instead of Zaccagni, instead in a very important match, because we needed to win against Celtic. Isaksen starting. I thought he had a great match. Not great first half, but second half. Not player of the match, because you have to give it to Ciro. But good performance, interesting, promising, I would say.
Yes, I agree. I think that Gustav Isaksen played... his first half was very hot and cold. Alasdair and I talked about that yesterday as well. Apparently he's also kind of hot and cold in practice. I thought he did a couple of really good things in the first half, but he also threw a couple of balls away. Second half he was excellent. And I think that when he realized after 15 minutes of the second half that he wasn't going to be substituted, he started playing extremely well. Because then I think he got the impression that he was going to play 90 minutes for the first time ever in a Lazio shirt. And then the last 30 minutes, he just kind of I don't know, he just played without any caution or anything. And this is the Isaksen that I know really well, because I've seen him a lot play for FC Midtjylland. At FC Midtjylland, he was the star player. At Lazio, he's not the star player at all. But the way that he plays very carefree. And once he begins taking chances, I think he's very difficult for opponents to deal with, because they don't know what he's going to do. And I'm not sure that he really knows what he's going to do all the time. He's a very instinctive player. And once he starts doing that, I think he gives a lot to Lazio, because sometimes Lazio is a bit too predictable in offense. And I know, Alasdair, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, hello everyone. I am actually here despite Vittorio introducing his dog before me. Yeah, I think that the instinctiveness thing is a really good thing to pick up on, because it's, I think, something we've lacked this season. I think there, like you say, is something that seems to have been missing, is that it's been far too predictable at times. It's felt like the team has almost looked a bit overcoached sometimes, where kind of goes through the motions and they keep trying to do the same thing and it's not really working, or they're a bit too wary of attempting something that's like a low percentage move. And I think that's something that Isaksen brings. You might like it or hate it. I mean, we were talking about this before, that I actually quite liked him in the first half last night, because he was trying to get things happening. And he's so direct, whether it's him running at defenders or whether it's him trying to take shots or trying to put balls in the box. Okay, it's not going to work out 100% of the time, but where do the goals come from? They both come from Isaksen trying to do low percentage things. The shot he takes is through a crowded box. It was unlikely to go in, but it takes a deflection, Ciro scores. And then the second goal, he just lumps a ball into the box, which should be an easy clearance for the defender. And if it was, everyone goes, "Oh, Isaksen, why are you making that pass?" But no, it forces a mistake because the Celtic defender gets it all wrong. Ciro finishes brilliantly. There you go. So look, I don't think that we should look at this and say, okay, Isaksen is the answer to every problem Lazio have had this season. But I think he's shown that he can offer something different to this team that otherwise we've not really seen so much this season. I'll let you take over, Vittorio.
Yeah, I think we have to talk about the decision of Maurizio Sarri, because picking Isaksen in a game so important, giving an opportunity finally to Hila, and in particular, I think the game changed when Sarri decided to take off Felipe Anderson and keep Isaksen. At the moment, I was, well, maybe he's taking off Isaksen, even though if he's playing well, Felipe Anderson has more experience in the Champions League, can be more decisive. Instead, keeping Isaksen shows you, one, that Sarri trusts the player, which is good to know, and two, that Sarri wanted to win that game. Probably he said, Felipe is a great player, huge experience, but at the moment, Isaksen is playing better and we need to win. So I think that's a very important sign, looking also forward, because my hope is that from this game going onwards, Isaksen will start playing more, because at the moment, he's the new signing that have played less so far. which can make sense, but, we were expecting something more from him.
I mean, I completely agree with both you and Alasdair that I don't think that Isaksen played a perfect game last night by any means at all. But I think that he was trying to be decisive, which is something that Lazio's strikers have lacked, I think, for a long time. I think we're being a little bit too predictable. We're being too nice sometimes in attack. And you look at Isaksen and he gets the ball, and you look at his eyes, you look at his movements, and you tend to think, well, he wants to create something. He wants to make a difference. And to have this striker or this winger who wants to make a difference is something that Lazio has lacked for a long time. This doesn't mean that Isaksen is better than Philip Andersen. He's not at all. But I think that last night could have been kind of a turnaround for Isaksen. Not that he's going to be the star player from now on, but I also kind of noticed, because I was standing with you, Vittorio, it kind of seemed like people were, the last half an hour whenever he got the ball, Isaksen, people were kind of standing up, thinking something's going to happen now because he gets the ball. He's not just going to pass it back. He's going to try and create something. Was that just my impression because I'm a Dane, or?
Well, unfortunately, Lazio fans remember very well Isaksen from last year. He's been very good against us. So probably a lot of fans were saying, hey, you scored us last year. Now it's your time to do it for us, finally. But we were talking about the decision of Maurizio Sarri, starting Tati Castellanos instead of Ciro Immobile. That was a huge surprise, as I was mentioning before. Now we can say he made the right choice, right? Starting Tati Castellanos and then in the last minute bring in a fresh Ciro who scored twice. Sarri said, Ciro started against Salernitana. Tati was fresher. He started against Celtic. Then I guess against Cagliari, Ciro will start. Tati Castellano wasn't impressive, right? He didn't create that much, Alasdair. I was hoping something better, but at the same time, it was useful because Ciro came in the last 30 minutes and changed the game, right?
Last time we spoke about him, I think you described him as a boxer. And so last night we can continue this boxing metaphor because he was, all the little body blows, he was landing a few punches and then take him off and Ciro comes on and he can do the knockout. So, he's quite combative, quite aggressive. I have been disappointed that he's not kicked on in a goal scoring sense. Given he's our number 9, that's kind of what you need. I think he started the season quite brightly. I have liked the way that he's linked up with the rest of the team. I think he's learned how to do that quite well. But he's not finishing the chances he gets, and I don't think he's getting himself into enough scoring chances either. I mean, last night there wasn't much. It was a kind of a couple of corners where he was always in front of the ball instead of coming onto it. But it's, maybe it's a good option, and maybe Ciro is just now a bit more, I hope anyway, he's a bit more willing to accept a role where, he can play in bursts rather than having to play 90 minutes every time and feeling I'm the captain, it's my responsibility to be here, I need to lead this team, I need to score all the goals. I mean, he does still need to do all that stuff in this team, but maybe that doesn't have to be with 90 minutes every week. Maybe he's getting to a point where he can actually embrace being used in bursts rather than every match, because that might get the best out. I'll throw that to you, Karsten. I mean, what do you think? Ciro being used kind of more in bursts, and Tati as well. What do you think about him and his contribution?
Yeah, I'm sad to say that I think I agree with almost everything you said right there. I think Tati has been started off really well, has been a little bit disappointing because he really should have scored maybe 3, 4, 5 goals by now. And he hasn't. Has he scored even one? One goal.
Atalanta.
Right. And that's fine. I think what I like about him is that he holds the ball up really well. He's built. He's like a square, he can't really move him around. He looks like a boxer, like you say. I don't think having him on the pitch for 1 hour, 60 minutes, and just kind of doing a lot of hard work, and then putting Ciro on to score the goals, it's not a bad deal for anybody.
No.
I mean, Ciro's 34 now. He can't really play that many matches. I sort of had the impression when we were watching the match yesterday, Vittorio, I kind of told you, I think Ciro could make a difference now. And he did. He really did make a difference. And I think Ciro is better now than he's been all season. He's not like the great Ciro of 3 years ago when he scored 36 goals or whatever. But he'll never be that Ciro again, in my opinion. But he's still a really good finisher. He had 2 chances. The first chance, it's a big chance, but he finished it really clinically. The second one is an amazing goal, because it's not Isaksen's goal. It's 90% Ciro's goal. It's such a great move. Like, he just kind of boxes off the defender, and then he does the little dummy and the perfect finish. It's such a good Ciro goal. So, yeah, I think Ciro kind of won our hearts back yesterday. He's just very important for Lazio. No matter what we do and no matter what we say, it's like he's still the heart of this team.
And I agree with you saying that he's not the Ciro that he was once, but the second goal was really important and made a good goal. I know Loki wants to say something about Ciro. He loves Ciro. I thought you were right when you said I saw improvement from Ciro. I wasn't so sure after Salernitana Lazio because I didn't think Ciro played that well. But the second goal was huge improvement. Let's not forget that the last 3 goals Lazio scored in Champions League are all from Ciro. And a lot of fans say, yeah, he scores only on penalty. Feyenoord, not a penalty. Yesterday, 2 goals, not a penalty. That's really encouraging. But Alasdair, I want to ask you this, because after the game, Joe Hart and Ciro Immobile spoke for like 10 minutes. I thought about the second goal, because Joe Hart was convinced that was a free kick, that was a foul. I mean, from the Scottish point of view, do you think that was a foul on Ciro or just a bad defending?
You think it's a foul?
No,
Joe Hart was convinced.
Joe Hart's always convinced that something's gone against him. I'd love to know. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that comment. Like, what language are they speaking? What's happening there?
Well, Joe Hart was in Torino, right? And he said he never learned Italian.
Famously good Italian speaker. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. I think Ciro uses his body quite well there. And actually, the reports I've read in the Scottish media and so on haven't been claiming that's a grievance against Celtic or that there's any there's not been any outrage about the result. And it's interesting actually seeing our discussions about Ciro. We're so close to this discussion. We're so close to this subject. But, in Scotland, a lot of the talk has been like, that this is the difference between Celtic and a team like Lazio is the quality that they've got, and what chance do you stand if
you look at the XG, like 234,
yeah
0-4.
Yeah, so no one's complaining about the result, but they're saying, if you bring on a player like Immobile and Pedro off the bench, what chance have you got, kind of thing, because Celtics, what they've been complaining about is that the squad, they need to have their first choice 11 to compete in the Champions League, and they've had all these injuries and selection issues, which I think you'd say the same about Lazio, but we've managed. I mean, I think this Champions League campaign is really saving this season now because we've not even mentioned yet, but we're through to the last 16 with a game to spare, which is an incredible achievement. We've got a chance, a free shot really in Madrid of just a shootout to win the group, to get a better draw. Who knows, to reach a quarter-final if we can somehow win the group. And look, I think the Champions League is kind of suiting this team this season in a weird way, because Sarri said after the game last night in the press conference again about, I don't have any issue with the players, the issue is the mentality. And he's saying that over and over again. And he said, if the team approached Serie A games like they approached the game tonight, we would be in a much better position. Kind of stating the obvious, but it's been so extreme this season with the way that if their attention isn't there and if their approach isn't there, the performances have been so bad. I mean, you can kind of accept that you're not going to be at that level all season long. Like, Lazio can't expect to win every single game in a season, but it's just the highs and lows have been crazy. So, given the way the Serie A season is going, I mean, I don't know about you. Do you guys think Champions League is like the main focus now? I mean, we still in for top 4, but Champions League has to be a major focus. I don't know, where do you stand on that, Vitor?
Obviously, reaching the next stage of the Champions League is massive for us. Money-wise, it's really important. But even, brand awareness, let's call it like that. Reaching this stage is really important for Lazio. The funny thing, and I want to hear your opinion, is that after yesterday, a lot of Lazio fans reached out and said, we didn't do nothing special. We just achieved what we had to do, reaching the next stage. And sometimes I'm like, we are not anymore Sergio Scragnotti Lazio. We are Lotito. Our wage are lower than half the team in the Champions League. Half the team of the Champions League have bigger salary than Lazio. Yes, we didn't have a very tough draw, but Feyenoord, when we said it a lot of time, Karsten, it's a really good team. People think they come from Netherlands, they're weak. They have a lot of youngsters, really interesting, and in a couple of years we're gonna talk about them, maybe playing Manchester United, etc. Atletico Madrid is a top team in Europe, a really good team. Celtic is a good team for a fourth-tier stage, right? It's not that you pick Slavia Praga or something like that. It's a good team. So I thought that Lazio did achieve one game in hand still, and we already qualified. I mean, that's a good achievement for Lazio.
You know, I think you're completely right. We talked about this yesterday, Vittorio, and I mean, this might be the fact that I don't live in Rome. I live in Copenhagen, but
Denis Vavro.
Denis Vavro, yeah. But when you consider it, Lazio's wage bill is the sixth highest in the Serie A, and it has been for the last 5 or 6 years. If you look at the last 4 years, Lazio have ended up number 4, 5, and 2. And they have the sixth highest wage bill. So we've beaten the wage bill every single season. Last season, even by a mile, basically. I mean, if Lazio ends up number 8 this season or 7, I won't like it much. But if they get to they progressed in the Champions League. They might get to a quarterfinals. Who knows?
Can I just stop and ask you?
Sure.
What would you be happy with a season where Lazio finish 8th in Serie A but reach a quarterfinal? Is that a good season?
Yeah, I think it is. It's not a bad season. What I'm saying is that we got to second place last season. Did you expect that to happen again? Because I certainly did not. You know, Lazio is a good team, but it's a sub-top team. I mean, we're basically in the tire of, we're about Fiorentina, and we always end up in front of Fiorentina. We're about Atalanta. We're usually a little bit above or below Atalanta. Roma has a much, much higher wage bill than we do. We've ended up in front of Roma, which I know is very important to you, especially Vittorio, every single season the last 4 seasons.
Yep.
You know, and I think Lazio are doing really, really well. If they end up 7th or 8th this season, please don't talk about firing someone like Sarri. Sarri is a top 10 coach in the world, in my opinion. Lazio is not a top 10 team in Europe or in the world at all. They have a great coach. They should hold on to Sarri and just every day they should basically say thank you for him, for the fact that he's even staying at Lazio. Because I mean, I really, really think it means so much for Lazio and for the players to have someone like Sarri, because nobody doubts Sarri. Everybody has so much respect for him. We know exactly how to play. I know that they're not playing that well at the moment in the Serie A, but we can't end up number 2 every single season. This season, my guess is we're probably going to end up number 6. Is that really, really bad? I don't think it is.
Well, the biggest issue is money-wise again. If you finish in the Champions League, you get much more money than the Europa League. So that's the biggest problem we're facing. But to reply to Alasdair, because I'm a gentleman, so I reply to your question, it's incredible to see how different this team plays in the Champions League and in Serie A, especially with the weakest team. Against Salernitana, we were terrible. And yes, we miss Luis Alberto, but as I was saying to you yesterday, you have to beat Salernitana every single day, even without Luis Alberto. Yesterday, Luis Alberto played. I thought he played a good match, but we cannot rely only on Luis Alberto to beat big teams. I think the focus of this team, yet last year they achieved more than they expected, and this year they don't perform. They don't focus on the Serie A games as they did last year, and this is the result. Sarri said, to prove we are back, we have to wait for Cagliari's game. If we beat Cagliari, if we play well against Cagliari, then this is an improvement. Otherwise, it's the simple Lazio we saw all year long this season. So I think he's right, Alice. I think Cagliari is going to be our test to show if we are back, really, right?
I think he's absolutely spot on about that, because you need to back this up, and that's always been the issue, isn't it? Post-European games or pre-European games, the distraction that you can have. But at home to Cagliari, come on, I mean, let's hope that they can approach that in the right way. Sarri, to go back to what Karsten was saying, yeah, I mean, I think this is part of the reason we've been supporting and we haven't turned against Sarri in this season yet. But I don't think it'll come down to sacking him. I find it so hard to imagine Lotito sacking Sarri. I think if there's a separation, it'll be him making that decision. I mean, which he's alluded to this week by saying, I'll be the first to walk away if I decide this is my fault. But he still thinks, which is promising for us, he still thinks that there is a way back for this team, because he thinks that if they can fix their mentality. I don't know, do they have a psychologist in that dressing room, a sports psychologist? Because that is something I think is crucial in modern day elite sport at any level, really. You don't need to be playing in the Champions League to hire a sports psychologist. So, yeah, you're right about the Cagliari game. I think they need to back it up. They need to go in, prove to Sarri that they can go into these kind of games without a complacent attitude. And I think that it does take the pressure off a bit, the fact that they've qualified. Okay, we still want to win the group, but knowing you're through, and that will allow them hopefully to focus on these Serie A games a wee bit more, at least up until the Christmas break.
Alasdair, if you think that you are the problem of Lazio, you are free to walk away. Don't think about it. I mean, I'm happy with that decision. One of the questions we had since the beginning of the season, Karsten, is Lazio probably need another central defender. We play with a 4-man defense. We had 4 defenders, but Hila, since last Saturday, hardly played. Do you think after this performance things will change? Do you think we don't need any more central defender after these 2 good performances, I would say, about Hila? Because yesterday he played well and he was really happy. He talked to the press after the game and said, I'm happy because I'm playing. Finally, I want to prove the manager. And I think I showed the manager that I need to play, that I'm able to play. So I hope I will play more going forward. Do you think that's the case?
Well, Sai said yesterday, I think, or maybe a couple of days ago, that Hila is a very good defender whenever he plays against a rather small, quick forward, which he did yesterday. But he also says that I'm a bit scared about leaving Hila in central defense if we play against someone who's very physical. So Hila is quick, but he's not very strong. I thought he did well yesterday. I don't think he's a bad defender. I don't know that we need any more defenders. We have 4 central defenders. We only need 2. Right now, 2 are injured. But I think Marusic could probably be a defender if he had to for 1 or 2 matches. I think that's basically... Do we need any more defenders? I don't know that we do. Romagnoli, we have to get him back really, really quickly, because Romagnoli is extremely important for Lazio. I mean, he's been so good for us. What a great signing he's been, I also think that if we look at the game yesterday, it kind of... You and I were talking during the match, Vittorio, and said, we need to win this game because Celtic is there for the taking. I think we've had a lot of those games in Serie A this season as well. You look at the Serie A games and we get a small team like... who did we lose to? All the small teams, actually. Genoa, Salernitana, Lecce. Those games where you can kind of tell that Lazio is the better team, we need to start winning those games. And I think yesterday we were very nervous, you and I, that we were going to do the same thing we did against Salernitana or Lecce or Bologna for that matter. But yesterday it turned out maybe that could be kind of a turnaround. But Lazio needs to be better against the smaller teams because they're actually doing fairly well against the big teams. I mean, we've beaten Napoli away, we've beaten Atalanta, we've beaten Fiorentina. We're doing fairly well against the big teams.
I thought, well, before the guy behind me said it's better to play his eye central defender than Hila yesterday, which was weird. But I thought that, and we said it, Isaksen playing had a huge impact because we finally created chances. Yesterday was probably the first time this season where Lazio had more than 2 shots on target. I remember Isaksen had 2 huge chances. Felipe Anderson had a header that was wide. Ciro scored twice. Luis Alberto missed a chance. Finally, we created chances. We had shots. Don't know if it's all thanks to Isaksen. Don't know if it's only because Luis Alberto played, etc. But something changed. And this is promising looking forward, right, Alasdair? Because one of the weaknesses of this team is we don't score. We don't score goals. We don't create chances. We didn't against Salernitana. We had that penalty and that's it. Yesterday, finally, we created a lot of chances.
Can I just really quickly?
Yeah, of course.
So very quickly, I'm gonna pass this over to Alasdair. But I just want to remind people that Isaksen scored 15 goals last season in the Danish Super League. He was actually the top scorer in the Super League, which is not a lot of goals to be a top scorer, but he scored 15 goals. So I think that one of the things you can see about Isaksen is that he's sort of hungry to score goals.
He said it yesterday.
Well, he had like 4 or 5 shots yesterday, and they kind of blocked most of them. He had a really kind of a weak attempt really early on, but then he was blocked like 3 or 4 times. But he has a good left foot. And I think there's a chance that he will start scoring just a few goals. The problem is we only have one guy scoring goals for us. So only one guy in the entire team scoring goals.
I was writing something about Isaksen this morning and going through stats from last night, and I'm going to have to try and do this off the top of my head now. But I think there was 9 chances created against Salernitana, whereas last night there was 23. Isaksen, I think, had 2 shots on target, like 5 key passes. He really made an impact in that game. And okay, the assist he got wasn't like a Andrea Pirlo assist, but it's still something on his record, isn't it? And I do think that he made a difference just because he got things going, and that is the name of the game for me. I mean, we were still attempting too many ridiculous shots from 30 metres, but at the same time, just having a player on the pitch who's willing to be that direct and just see the goal and go for it. I don't know, the question, I guess, is, does Sarri like that? Because he does want things to be structured. He does want the team to play in his own image. I don't know if it didn't sound last night in the press conference like Sarri was about to change his mind about Isaksen. He was still saying he's young, he needs to learn, he's hot and cold, all this stuff that we've heard all season. So I don't think this is necessarily a moment where he's going to change his mind and Isaksen's going to start every game.
So you don't think he's going to make him captain tomorrow?
Yeah, probably not. But I think he'll be more willing to give him a chance. And the final thing, the most crucial moment for me in the game wasn't that he started. It was that he took off Anderson instead when he made the changes, because that told Isaksen, I see what you're doing and I like it, and I'm giving you my faith. And I think that was a huge moment.
Yeah, Karsten said that 25 minutes ago, though. But okay, I mean,
Going on for too long.
Take credit about that. But no, seriously, the most important thing I think about the 4-3-3, and we saw it last year, is if the wingers work, if they perform, Lazio can be very dangerous. Last year, Zaccagni was terrific. Felipe Anderson had a very good season. This year, both players are underperforming because Felipe Anderson yesterday, I would say, had a decent game, not astonishing. But Isaksen had a good game, and I don't think it's a coincidence that Isaksen had a good game. We created 23 chances. Against Salernitana, Zaccagni was bad. Felipe Anderson was bad. Pedro came in and was invisible. We didn't create nothing. 4-3-3, you create chances if your wingers perform well. Obviously, you have to have good wingers, and I think Lazio have. So I think that after yesterday, Isaksen will play more. We are not saying he's going to be the starter for all season long, but he showed that he can play at this level. Sarri knows that he needs good wingers to create chances. So I think the most important thing was that, show that if Isaksen play well, Lazio can become again a dangerous team. And Cagliari, it's a good test for him. Now, I don't know if he's going to play. Well, Zaccagni is not going to play. So the question is Pedro or Isaksen or Felipe Anderson. But I think this is the answer we had yesterday, right, Karsten?
Yeah, I mean, Isaksen can certainly play. He's always in really, really good shape. Whenever he played in Midtjylland, whenever they were doing drills and exercises and those kinds of things, he's always top 3. So he's always in really good shape. He can run a lot. There's nothing wrong with Isaksen playing 90 minutes. He's 22 years old. He's in great shape. So I'm sure he can do that. The thing about Isaksen is he's not a great defender, but I think Sai is trying to change that. And the thing about Isaksen is, so Isaksen is from a small town. I know the town that he's from really well, and it's like 200 people. I mean, he's from a really, really small town. And I think that he's sort of learned his entire life to listen and sort of do what the coach says. He's not a guy who thinks he's the big star of the team who'll just go his own way. If a coach that he has respect for, and he has respect for most coaches, tells him to do something, he will try to do it. I'm not saying he's going to be the greatest offensive defender of all time like Philip Anderson, because he's a great defender. But he will certainly try. That's the thing. And if Sai can just, get him 10-15% better at defending as well, I think he can be dangerous for us in some matches. Although I'll have to remind the Lazio fans out there, because I've seen Isaksen play 100 matches or something like that. There will be matches when Isaksen just loses the ball for no reason, and he does weird stuff, and you think, what the hell is wrong with this guy today? It's just the way he is. He's such an instinctive player. In other matches, he'll score a couple of goals. He'll run away from 3 people.
It's like Philip Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To wrap it up, I have a question to you both, because, Alasdair moved to Rome from Scotland and you're Danish. Sari said something very interesting for me. He said Isaksen had to adapt to a different city, start eating differently, Italian food compared to Danish food, start preparing differently. And this is why he took time to play like this. Alasdair, do you agree, or this is just Sarri trying to make an excuse to defend a player who struggled at the beginning of the season, or is it true? I mean, I lived in different country, but I didn't feel that difficulty to start eating, fish and chips and things like that. But I'm not a professional player, so that's a difference. Alasdair?
Yeah, I think it's a thing. I think especially given his age, I think it's a big difference. I mean, Karsten can speak about this because he knows his personality better, but I think coming from that kind of rural Danish background and being thrown into the spotlight in Rome, and not just big city, big expectations, being on the street and people will be stopping you, all this kind of stuff. There is a lot of adapting to do off the pitch, I think. It's true. I mean, I don't know about the food. The food's probably an upgrade. But yeah, I mean, I think probably the biggest thing is the style of football will be a lot different, very tactically focused. Everyone talks about that who moves to Italy from other leagues. And on top of that, the communication is obviously a big part of it, because it's going to take him a while to pick up the language enough to be able to properly communicate and understand what everything's happening around him. So I think those are the 2 main things.
Before pass it to Karsten, Sari said yesterday that Isaksen doesn't speak very well Italian, but he knows all the swear words very well. So he's good at that.
I think we have to remember that FC Midtjylland is not a small club. So I don't think that Isaksen has just been eating ice cream and cake his entire life. I mean, FC Midtjylland is a pretty professional club. They have their own health, nutrition experts and stuff.
We don't, probably.
I would say maybe Midtjylland is even more professional than Lazio, actually. Lazio is obviously a much bigger club.
Psychologist.
But Midtjylland played in the Euro League the last 5 or 6 years. They played in the Champions League 2 years ago. So it's not a small club. I mean, he's not exactly from a school team or something like that. But they might have picked something up about him getting to be a little bit stronger, maybe, because he used to be very thin, very small. I think he's maybe gained a little bit of weight, muscles, which is not a bad thing at all. But you just don't want him too heavy, because then you're going to take away his speed, and his speed is really, really important. All in all, my impression is he doesn't really speak to the Danish press or anything. I hear something once in a while. I hear something from the club, from Midtjylland, because I know people there, that he's doing well here. He likes it here. He's just kind of a happy guy. He's not a very complicated guy. I think that he's a very happy guy, and I think as long as he feels the progress, I think he's pretty happy about being here. And I think that he'll do whatever to be a better player and to do what Sai wants him to do.
Well, unfortunately, Alasdair is proving that living in Rome is not that bad. We are still hoping to see him go back to Scotland, but he's enjoying Rome. So I guess even Isaksen with more Marin and Alasdair is proving that Rome is not that bad. Anyway, Thanks, guys, to joining me. I hope you had a nice coffee. And Lazio through the Champions League. It's not a bad performance, especially seeing how Lazio is performing in Serie A. Let's hope that this brings a change even in the Serie A, that brings some confidence, scoring more goals, etc. And to you listeners, please rate and review our podcast, and we'll be back after Lazio Cagliari. Thanks.